One of the fundamentals of wood turning is sharp tools. Wood turning is no fun with dull tools. They don't cut well, and they're actually even more dangerous than sharp tools. So I'm going to talk about sharpening as part of the safety. When you come to the sharpener, you should have at least safety glasses on. And because the dust coming off the wheel is actually aluminum oxide and steel, it's not a bad idea to have a dust mask on either. So now I'm ready to sharpen, and I'm going to start with gouges. My sharpener has a one-way Wolverine sharpening system on it. This platform's been cut out so I can get closer to the wheel on this side. It's just a flat platform. And I sharpen most of my gouges initially to 40 degrees, 40 degree angle. This is how I learned to do it from Stuart Batty. And I have a Stuart Batty jig that if I put this on my platform and match it to my wheel, if I match that up, that'll give me a 40 degree angle. I can tighten up my platform and do that. I've also taken a protractor and have inscribed a 40 degree angle on the plate this way and this way. I also have a 60 degree angle marker. I'm going to use the 40 degree today. So the first thing I want to do is I want to establish that I've got a 40 degree angle on my nose of my gouge, and I can do that, and I can see by the line that that is a 40 degree angle. Now there are two ways to sharpen. You can do it freehand or you can use a jig. For a beginner, I recommend using a jig. So this is a Wolverine jig. The tool goes in it like this, and I'm looking for 2 inches out the end of the tool. You just have to be consistent. This tool is now 2 inches from the end. And with the Wolverine jig, you get a device like this that goes in there like this, and the jig will come up and touch the wheel. So I'm going to set my angle so that I know that's 40 degrees on the wheel. So if I touch the wheel with this, I should see the line that says, yes, that's 40 degrees. I'm going to roll it over to the wing until the handle is perpendicular to the wheel. Come over this way until the handle is perpendicular to the wheel. And I should have a nice even grind all the way around that edge. If the camera is focusing on it. And that's a 40 degree grind. I'll do it also with my bowl gouge. This is my bowl gouge. I'm going to get my 2 inches. I got that marked off on my, this is 2 inches. I'm going to put it in here. and ascertain that it's a 40-degree angle. It should be the same as the other one since everything else is the same. Turn that on. I start over here on the wing, perpendicular to the, parallel to the grinder wheel. Come around to the point, go on the other wing, turn on the grinder wheel, come around on the point, and I'm finished. I have a nice even grind on both sides of the wheel. Now I'm sharpening a scraper. A little different story. I don't need this jig. I do need my platform. And the scraper cuts with a burr. You notice the top angle of my scraper, the top of my scraper, has been cut down to about a 5-degree angle. See if I can get that to focus. And the angle on the bottom doesn't have to be as much as 40 degrees. Set my platform down. Like that. When I sharpen my scraper, I'm going to take it around until the sparks come over the top edge. Scraper is getting a little short. I almost have to move to my cut-in platform, but the edge will be a nice smooth bevel on the bottom, and on the top it'll have a burr from the action of the wheel coming down on the scraper. Square scraper is done the same way. Nice smooth edge and a burr on the top surface. When you're sharpening high-speed steel, what we have is an aluminum oxide wheel. And this particular grinder is a slow-speed grinder. It's turning at 1725 RPM. You can use a high-speed grinder, it doesn't matter, it just takes steel off a little bit faster. You can't pull a taper out of high-speed steel simply by grinding it. So there's no need, like in the former old high-carbon steel blades, there's no need to be dipping it in water, except if you want to cool it. But you're not hardening it, you're not drawing the temper out of high-speed steel. The next kind of tool that we typically sharpen is a skew. A skew has an included angle that's much sharper than the gouge. It would be double the gouge, double 45. And what I've done is simply follow the rule that says the bevel should be twice as long as the diameter or the width of the skew. So this bevel is about twice, maybe 1.5 times to 2 times the width of the skew. The skew will not rest flat on the tool rest. I have to have it up here on the ferrule. So I'm going to I'm going to get it as flat as I can with the ferrule on a tool rest. Lock it down. And sharpen this side. Take a look and see where my wheel is cutting. Cutting down here. I haven't even touched the top yet. I'm getting close. Through. We got a clean bevel. I'll switch to this side. Do the same thing. So I see sparks coming over the edge. And so I have a sharp skew. Now some people believe that a skew cuts better on the wood if this is a hollow ground because we've got a radius on the wheel, so we have a radius in our cut. Some people then like to take the skew on a flat surface so that the cutting edge and the heel of the skew, the bottom edge here, and the cutting edge are flattened out. Got to get it flat on the same angle. It's a lot easier to do on a bench top. So that I'm hitting both the back edge and the front edge of that skew with my diamond hone. Another way to sharpen a skew, or something that you don't want a hollow grind on, is to use a belt sander. We can go over and check that out. This is my belt sander. I use it for sanding wood. And this belt sander has an 80 grit belt on it that'll make short work of the steel. If I'm going to sharpen this, I want to lay it down on the heel and bring it up. Lay it down on the other side, bring it up. And I can get a flat, non-hollow grind edge on that skew simply by doing that. Actually, you can sharpen all your tools on a belt sander, but if you don't have a jig, it's going to be a little difficult to get a nice even bevel on the tools. We talked about wheel sharpening and belt sharpening. One other type of sharpening that I use is honing, and this is a diamond hone I got from Harbor Freight. It's got 200 grit, 300 grit, 400 grit, 600 grit. 400 grit is pretty fine. 600 is even finer. You can also get these diamond cards with two different grits, like 400 and 600 on one, 400 on one side, 600 on the other side. And honing puts a burr on the tool also, but you can, like whenever you're grinding on a sanding belt, you're putting a burr on the end of that tool that you may not want. So you can use the hone to take that off, and it'll give you a very sharp, smooth edge. On a scraper, you're really interested in the burr on the top. So that burr doesn't last too long. It's pretty thin. But when you're cutting, when you're using the scraper, what you can do periodically, I just took the burr off, is take the hone, especially one of these card hones, and come around the edge like this, and it puts a small micro burr on the edge of that shaper. And it would be hard to describe how small that is, but it really, really makes it sharp. When you're turning, the tool's going to dull down, and it every once in a while just take the hone and come around on the edge like this. You don't have to hone the inside of the flute, just the outside. And because it's a hollow grind, it'll put a whole new edge right on that flute. And the same thing this with the square scraper, just going like this puts a whole new burr on that scraper. Now we haven't talked about parting tools. Parting tools have a square top and a square bottom. And again, you can hone them like this. They do get dull. Hone them like this. You can sharpen them on the belt sharpener, or you can sharpen them around the wheel. But you want a nice sharp edge, because when you're cutting, you're actually cutting right in the bevel and cutting that top, that point into the wood. One other thing I might want to talk about is the shape of the cut. This is a swept back grind with a 40-degree bevel. This is a straight across grind on the roughing gouge, used for roughing spindles, and it also has a 40-degree bevel. There's another grind on bowl gouges. That's a flatter grind, probably a 60 to 70 degree bevel. That's used for when you're going across the bottom of a bowl, and I'll demonstrate this later in turning on a bowl. And there's a double bevel grind, where actually this grind on the outside is a 40-degree grind, and this grind on the top here is more like a 70-degree grind. And so that allows also going across the bottom of the bowl. So sharpening is a necessary evil, and it's a good idea to learn how to do it properly early on in your wood turning experience, because a sharp tool is a fun tool to use, and a dull tool is not fun, and it can be dangerous.